Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Red-Rupee here, calling the shots for you tonight as always for some more Dawn of War 2 action on the Calderis Refinery. A 2-on-2 on the blue team. We have NueroTerror as the Eldar Farseer, his ally OhMy as the Space Marine, Tech Marine, and representing the green tide is the red team, Anlaiddre as the Commando Knob and his ally MasterLeeZhao as the Mech Boy. Pretty interesting lineup here, an alliance of Eldar and Space Marines to hopefully stem this Ork wog that's approaching the Calderis Refinery here. Standard builds so far, we've got double shooters for both of our Ork friends. We've got Dire Avengers and Tax on the field for the blue team. Reds and blues just grabbing their natural power points and moving out onto the map for the time being. A lot of interesting commanders here as they're all kind of range support commanders. No real face melee commanders here. Of course, the Farseer can get in there early on, but she's not really kind of a melee powerhouse, so she can tie up some shooters, but she probably doesn't even really want to just go straight up against sluggers starting out. Really want to be using the things like guide and that sort of support to keep the Eldar at maximum proficiency here. Already a few shots being exchanged on the eastern side of the map. Tech Marine, Tax, and Scouts all moving in. Slugger Boys getting instantly upgraded with those burners and moving in on the Tactical Marine, taking a lot of fire though. It's have to not discount that Tech Marine range fire coming in. Tax getting knocked all around. Shooters do get forced off as the burners get upgraded and attack model goes down during the first engagement. Still though, that Tech Marine's gonna keep pinging away. It's unfortunate that the Mech Boy was out and about instead of being able to get over here and engage. Almost losing the Scouts in those last few moments here. Those sluggers not quite finishing the job, but the Tech Marine's in a bit of peril. Unfortunately, the sluggers do recognize they have to retreat. Tech Marine is getting upgraded with bionics. I'm not sure if that Mech Boy sensed that that was a possibility, but I think he really just didn't want to risk losing a couple models there and then maybe the melee picking one off, or sorry, the Tech Marine picking one off in melee on retreat. On the western side of the map, looks like the Eldar got pushed back here. Rangers coming out onto the field now, probably going to, intended to be used as a spotter for the Commando Knob with his sneakiness and potential for hide the boys. Mech Boy now getting tied up by the Farseer, but she's under fire from two Ork shooter squads, so that's gonna pretty easily force her off, and battles for the VP is still raging. Even the natural VP finally getting cleared for the Tech Marine to get that cap. Not Tech Boy, Mech Boy. We've got Tech Marine and Mech Boy, not Tech Boy and Mech Marine. Trying to get a decap on a natural wreck there, denied by the Rangers' kinetic shot and Dire Avengers. No Shuriken weapons team on the field yet for NueroTerror. Normally I expect to see those before the Rangers, but I suppose going for the Rangers first is solid considering how quickly the Commando Knob can build up some red and get the hide the boys. And of course those sluggers can rip apart a setup team if they get that stealth flank. But I think the Farseer should be able to babysit them for the time being, but we'll see if the Rangers first works out or not. OhMy going for no scouts, no second scouts at all, going straight for the assault squad, which I think is reasonable against the Mech Boy. It's kind of tricky to engage him without an additional heavy infantry squad, either a second squad attack, or as we are seeing here, these assault Space Marines. Scouts finding themselves a bit out of position along with those tactical Marines. Shotguns upgraded, but unfortunately a second too late, and kind of an awkward shotgun blast there. Managed to hit the one stray model way in the back. A little friendly fire on this Commando Knob stun bomb, but it was enough to push off the Tech Marines, and now two armies of Orks now facing off against the Eldar. Full big shooters now over here, big shooters and Mech Boy pressuring the Tech Marine. Farseer finding herself a bit out of position. The sub squad now jumping in on the far out squad. I think that might have been a bit of a mistake. He probably wanted to move in on these dual shooter boys, and then he could have assisted his ally. He had really two options right there. He could have jumped in on the far out shooter boy squad, which he did manage to rout. But if he had jumped in over here and caused some disruption on this side of the map, it would have allowed the Eldar to stay on the field. That said, some good use of the hollow field, getting those Dire Avengers out from the line of sight, and the Eldar adopted pretty quickly to what was going on that side of the map. MasterLeeZhao bringing out some Storm Boys and some additional melee power here and going for the def gun, which I don't often see on the mech boy these days. Kind of tricky to use, of course, does turn the mech boy into a single entity setup team with some suppression and pretty reasonable damage. Of course, he can teleport right into someone's face, so you can use that very aggressively, or instantly change position of your suppression hero to pretty great effect if you can manage to utilize that correctly. Both sides now, I think, pretty much with fully upgraded gen farms, so we can see Anlaiddre is heading into tier 2. And Commando Knob upgraded, keeping it pretty sparse here. He got his basic upgrades for all 3 of his Ork boys, and then got some grenades, some stick bombs for his Commando Knob. So beyond that, he's just going straight into tier 3. No Ludas, no Storm Boys for him. Storm Boys, of course, pretty common for the mech boy. I wouldn't be surprised to see the battery pack here really increases their longevity and allows them to kind of get in the tech Space Marines' faces. Nice looking bionics there. Pretty singularly wiping out that Slugger Boy squad, forcing the retreat. However, these Storm Boys are going to be able to get in, but still, even though they're able to do some heavy power melee damage against these tactical Marines, they really can't stay in against the power of that master-crafted Bolter and shotgun scouts. That's just a lot of range damage that those Storm Boys are reasonably frail with their armor and can't really deal with. Mech Boy trying to get set up and get some suppression down there, but instantly denied by the Assault Space Marines. He wasn't able to teleport out from under that very quickly. And it looks like on the far side of the map, the Eldar once again getting routed, but staying very mobile. You can see the Eldar's doing a good job, not engaging when he recognizes that the fight is going to cause him a lot of bleed. Ork's gonna rip apart those energy shields, make sure those can't be utilized by the Dire Avengers at this stage in the game. And everyone's heading into tier 2. Anlaiddre is already there. And it looks like it's just kind of a standoff on this side of the map. Recognizing the fully upgraded Shooter Boys aren't really something that the Dire Avengers can tangle with without the assistance of some energy shields. Rangers could probably be a bit more aggressive and maybe trying to get some pot shots off here and there, but it's very tricky, as once they're spotted, those Shooter Boys can just instantly turn and wipe that squad in the blink of an eye. So looks like the blue team is going to converge on the center point here. Eldar does need to move up a little bit, I think, and support his ally. So far, the blues have kind of been doing some reasonable teamwork, but not quite timing their pushes correctly. Rangers do finally open fire here, and Dire Avengers moving into position. Both of those Shooter Boys might get routed here. Nope, they're just pulling back just enough to turn and open fire. Assault Marines finding themselves taking tons of damage, but a quick bionic sweep from that Tech Marine does a lot of work. Oh man, scouts go down and a hail of gunfire right there. All those big shoots. These scouts are way too far forward. They need to be hanging out back behind the tactical Marines, ready to provide some support. But unfortunately, without those scouts, the Techs and the Tech Marine can't stay on the field against any Ork melee and firepower. However, the Farseer is getting a decap on the natural VP of the Reds, so buying some time to try to close this victory point gap. No real major victory point advantage for either side, just about a 50-point difference, which is still any way you can swing it. Knobs coming onto the field now for Slugger Boys, both of them, and Death Dreads on the field. Of course, in response to the Death Dreads, we've got the Wraith Lord on the field, we've got the Dreadnought. Neurological Terror is floating, and a crazy amount of requisition right now. I really think he should get himself a Shuriken weapons team or something along those lines to add some provided support, and especially once they spot these vehicles, even just popping a couple of those out right now, one for suppression, one for anti-vehicle. Once they spot these dual Death Dreads running around on the field, I think will be really useful. Let's see. Oh man, it looks like even under that sword of the Wraith Lord, Commando Knob's gonna go ahead and cap that point. Triple cap against the blues right now. Sometimes you don't need to be sneaky, you just need to be persistent. But that Death Dread doing a number on these Assault Space Marines, already picking off a model. Burn is doing a lot of damage right now. Let's see if the Tech Marines can get out of there with only 30 HP left. I think those Shooter Boys didn't quite focus them down. But now the Space Marine Dreadnought, much bulkier than that rickety Death Dreads on the field, gonna start punching away at Orks and Ork vehicles. Storm Boys are moving in, but there's really not any way for MasterLeeZhao here to deal with this Dreadnought. He doesn't have a good option for anti-vehicle other than the Def Dread itself. He does get the Beamy Def Gun for his Mech Boy, which will do some pretty significant anti-vehicle damage. But I think that alone, you can see the Def Dread's already pretty well messed up. Assault Marines jumping in to disrupt that ranged anti-vehicle fire. Def Dread hitting a Melta Bomb on it from the Assault Space Marines, that anti-vehicle support Melta right there, slowing that vehicle on down. Storm Boys do have a knob now, so they'll be able to do some reasonable anti-vehicle damage, but I don't think that's enough, especially with that Def Dread getting annihilated by the Dreadnought. Unfortunately, for OhMy right there, Master Lee recognized the correct move was just ignore the Dreadnought during that sync kill. He turned right around, assassinated that Tech Marine with those Storm Boys, and now Wraith Lord moving in on the Mech Boy, getting knocked down. Good job with the Ranger support there. He could have easily teleported out of there, but now he had to stop, reset up, and pretty much consequently retreat. And the Orks are kind of approaching the battlefield now with a bit of trepidation. He's not quite sure where he can move in. I think at this point you kind of just want to hang back for your ally. Yeah, there he goes. Doesn't want to move in against these dual walkers and the range fire support on his own. There are going to be a pair of tank busters on the field here shortly, along with that mech now. I think these walkers are going to have to be much more careful instead of just running the field as they had been before. This Wraith Lord being a bit brazen right now against upgraded Slugger Boys, those tank busters, and the Def Dread. The opposing Space Marine Dreadnought under the veil of that hollow field coming charging in here. Unfortunately, the Wraith Lord stopped attacking as cloak units won't attack on their own. You have to tell them to attack. And the Dreadnought, pretty much getting forced right off here. A lot of anti-vehicle on the field now, along with the help of that teleporting Mech Boy. You have to be very careful when you have these on the field as well, because that Mech Boy can teleport forward very nicely. And oh man, we have the Farseer with a very nice Psychic Storm right there, forcing off 2 squads of Shooter Boys. So really reducing the amount of ranged firepower on the field right now.
Our allies are here.
And the blue team kind of unable to approach this Ork blob at the moment. A lot of powerful melee. Ranged is ramping up as well, and the Mech Boys standing on guard to keep those Dreadnoughts at bay. Both of the blue Dreadnoughts very injured right now, so it's going to be a while before they're back on the field, but they don't have much time because the victory points are ticking away at now over a 200-point deficit. With the red team going into Tier 3, it's going to be very tricky for the blues to get back into this, I think. Just looking at the Army tab right now, you can kind of see it tells the story. Neurological Terror is just floating like a madman. This is kind of a mid-range game, so it's unfortunate to see that it's kind of tricky as Eldar. Sometimes you kind of want to just tier up, but at this point he needs to just get more units on the field. We've kind of been seeing he doesn't really have any way to hold against the Orks once they start moving forward against him, and that leaves him kind of unable to support the tech when the time comes. Beautiful looking Merciless Strike in this big fracas right here. Orks and Assault Space Marines. Dreadnought now moving in. Emperor's Fist knocks over all kinds of stuff in the middle there, and I think the Orks will be routed. A full, complete rout here, as the Tech Marine will be able to take back his natural victory point. 150 to 427, and those scouts, oh man, he needs to capture that victory point right away here. Space Marine Dreadnought still beat up pretty well after that engagement, but these Def Dreads actually proving pretty reasonable with all that anti-vehicle support and the piles of Shooter Boys that are out here. Just enough melee to support that pile of Ork range damage. But as it stands right now, it could still, the blues still have potential to bring it back. Neurological Terror is in Tier 3 now, so he will be able to start bringing the big stuff onto the field. And if he's not buying anything right now, he can buy an Avatar if he wants to. He needs to get something on the field. With both of these Dreadnoughts, both of these powerful walkers now just rolling forward. Neurological Terror might just not be terribly familiar with Eldar. It looks like he doesn't even have a cannon on his Wraith Lord yet. I'm not sure if he's holding out to see what he wants, but at this point he could easily have gone either a Bright Lance or a Shuriken to enhance that walker and provide some more range fire support. There is an Avatar coming out onto the field, so maybe all of this floating will not be in vain, as that great big old Avatar is going to be coming out here shortly, and if there's anything that's going to disperse a giant pile of green, it's going to be that Avatar and his Pie Slice of Doom. Sluggas moving in, trying to make sure the Ludas can't get set up and get that beaming Luda onto the field. Another nice looking Psychic Storm, this time disrupting the Slugga boys and preventing them from getting in on this Wraith Lord. Oh no, the Wraith Lord turns away from that last Luda model. I think it could easily have taken it out on retreat right there. Commando Nob getting knocked over and fussed about by the Farseer. Explosive shot, knocking the Farseer back doesn't really do much damage. You really don't want to use explosive shot on a single entity like that. It can really mess up some squishier squads though, like Dire Avengers and Banshees. Blessing of the Omnicide coming down, finally allowing all of these squads to get... Oh no! Broken arrow right there. Tank Buster Barrage trying to harass that Wraith Lord and maybe finish it off, but unfortunately all it did was doom his own Death Dread. That's a very orky situation. The Tank Busters just got excited. They saw melee walkers. They wanted to help, and they certainly did, but unfortunately for the wrong side. Nob's coming onto the field along with a looted tank for the red team. That's really going to be a force to be reckoned with. Tech Marine with dual Dreadnoughts now, one with the Assault Cannon, as we can see right there, and the other sticking with those fists, which I think is definitely needed. I think you want to keep one of these walkers melee to help prevent those Nobs and potential other melee squads at this point from moving forward. Perfect opportunity for an Assault Cannon Barrage. Let's see if it goes down. It does. Nails. Completely rips apart that Storm Boy squad. Once again, Hollow Field going down. Avatar is moving forward. Orc tank is in for a nasty surprise once they see this big bad boy. And Assault Jump coming in. Oh no, unfortunately, a little team misdirection there. Oh my, Wailing Doom doesn't quite kill any of those Assault Space Marines, but does quite a bit of damage in the meantime. Tank Buster's under huge duress right now. Mech Boy's trying to get set up, but it's not happening. There's just too many walkers on the field for anything to approach. The Orks of Anlaiddre moving in, getting the Wrath of Cain right there. Time field going down on the majority of the Orc blob here. Beautiful use of that. However, this Space Marine Dreadnought under a lot of trouble, a lot of pressure right there. Just narrowly escaping out. Unfortunately, they weren't. The blue team wasn't really able to capitalize and convert that time field into any real wreck lead or even forced retreats right there. Tech Marine falls right in front of the Orc base, 319 to 111, as this looted tank's just trying its damnedest to get away from this Avatar. Right Lance now on the field for that Wraith Lord, finally getting a range damage upgrade, so they should be able to, one way or another, flank this retreating tank and take it out. Let's see. Oh no, he needs to go around the other way with that Wraith Lord, moving both of these walkers together. There's a rocket, there's the Bright Lance, there we go. Both of them hitting right at the same time to finish out that looted tank. So suddenly it's looking like the blue team might be in this with that Avatar stomping around and that looted tank getting obliterated fairly quickly. It didn't really have much impact on the field. It almost took out a Dreadnought, but almost is exactly what you don't want when it comes to vehicles. It's generally just a lot of wreck loss, and then you almost take it out, and then ultimately it gets repaired on the back line and just walks right back forward. Oh no, I think maybe he went to go for a Wailing Doom right there. 109 to 298, still a 2-0 cap against the Blues. They need to definitely prioritize their victory point control at this stage in the game. Avatar sitting at about 2/3 health. Assault Squad, however, way out here where they don't need to be. They don't have any support at all. Merciless Strike goes down, knocks all kinds of Orcs back, but it's just too much range fire. Oh, beautiful grenade going off right down here. And another time field again. So just pretty much stopping the entirety of the Orc blob. Unfortunately, didn't really buy a lot of time. Those Nobs are still on the field, still haranguing that Avatar under a lot of pressure. Good support all around from the Farseer. Oh, we're going to see even more now with the Gravity Blade coming up here in just a moment. That upgrade's going to finish. We still have both Dreadnoughts up here just punching away at Orcs while the Wraith Lord and Avatar are doing the same. The Gravity Blade gets activated, Levitation Field stops those Nobs. And luckily, good job. He could have pulled the Avatar out there, but I think he kind of recognized that the Gravity Blade was going to upgrade with perfect timing. That's always excellent when you can get an upgrade that's so impactful like that in the middle of a battle. it completely changes. It'll force your opponents to sometimes overextend. You can see right there the Avatar was actually quite safe despite looking like it was in a pretty perilous position. The gravity blade was ready with that levitation field to protect it. So pretty solid use of Farseer abilities so far this game. We've been seeing the hollow field used very effectively. Now that time field is so very powerful with the armor of a Saurian. I think if Neurological Terror had gone a little more with the army support, though, the red team wouldn't be in, or sorry, the blue team wouldn't be in this precarious situation with under 100 victory points. But now that they're in the late game, he's bringing all that terrible late game Eldar that you don't want to see. D-cannons coming onto the field. Of course, the Avatar itself, these excellent tier 3 war gears for the Farseer, and now pretty much with a fully kitted out army for both sides. The onus is on the Orks to try to pick this composition apart, because there are still 3 walkers, not even 3, there's 4 walkers on the field, counting the Avatar, which is back home getting a little heal up back at that Eldar warp gate. But it's going to be tricky for the Orks to pull this apart. They do have plenty of anti-vehicle on the field, so I think they're just going to need to focus down these walkers maybe one at a time, but it's going to be difficult to approach with all this ranged firepower, with the assault cannon, with the D-cannon now on the field. Of course, there's a retreat beacon going down, if you can see, right in the back here as well. So it's just going to be hard to break this line, I think. Tech Marine is kitted out with his plasma gun now too, so that's going to help him rip apart those knobs. Commando Nob sneaking out here with some forward reconnaissance, maybe try to get the decap on that point. The Reds really only need to capture the points a little bit, kind of blob capping over here. Never really what you want to do, but oh man, those Assault Marines didn't know what they were jumping into. Merciless Strike going to go down here, but there is plenty of range fire support coming in here, and all of that disruption rips apart these Orks. Looks like the Storm Boys get annihilated as a whole. That entire squad's down, and these Dreadnought in the perfect flanking position, but they do let the Orks escape. The rest of those squads not really doing too much. Time field going down on this side of the map, but again, not really anything here to support that. If the D-cannon were maybe in position or something along those lines, he'd be able to take out that giant pile with maybe a singularity or just a few solid D-cannon shots to guide. Knobs chasing off the Assault Space Marines. They're falling back to that relay beacon. The Knobs probably could have stuck around and maybe taken them out. I think there wasn't quite enough support fire to take those Knobs out, but they just hadn't used their frenzy, so it's always kind of dangerous to beat those out when you don't have that support. Surprising to not see the battery pack on the mech at this stage of the game, because it could be so very useful with the Storm Boys and Knobs, but unfortunately the Storm Boys are no more. Farseer getting very brazen in the thick of all these Knobs and Shooter Boys and Tank Busters. I think she's probably going to go down as one Ork just gets spun all around. That must be some weird Eldar psyching going down. Commando Nob gets taken out and tossed on the ground by that Wraith Lord. Avatar again narrowly escaping death with the help of things like Time Field and Gravity Blade. But the blue team's stalling out all they can, really trying to close this out with with all of these giant walkers. Surprisingly, none of them have gone down yet. I think the red team's kind of just been doing that thing where they're moving independently of each other, and the blue team's really kind of gathered up here in the center. And it's something you see often in team games where one side's really kind of coordinating perfectly and the other side is just kind of running in one at a time. And it looks like, see, the mech boy, I think, hopefully is going to be hanging back here. He's not going to push up against this by himself, but he's kind of moving around as though he intends to do so. Shooter Boys trying to see if they can get a sneaky cap on the far side of the map here, but there's plenty over here to watch them and force them off. A couple swings of that sword take out a Shooter Boy or two, but now Orks all moving in, and this is also a very dangerous position to be in at this stage in the game. Luckily for them, neither of the blues have any sort of nuke opportunity. They don't have the red for it, so but they're kind of blobbing around at the moment, and especially with that D-cannon out there, a couple of good shots from that D-cannon could cut this Ork's army's effective HP in half. Look, yeah, he's just blobbing around right now, unfortunately. I think the blue team's, or sorry, the red team's a bit flustered. Oh, this would be the perfect opportunity for a singularity. I'm not sure if the Farseer sees it, though. It does force a full retreat of the entire mech boy army. I think maybe he could have stuck around, but I think it was probably a good call. But either way, whether he stuck around or not, it's now leaving his allies stranded out here, and the blue team just picked apart that Ork advance and now is going to have plenty more time to keep taking down those VPs, and they're just about even up at this stage, 119 to 93. All these walkers just running all over the place, completely, I don't want to say unopposed, but that's what it feels like. There's plenty of anti-vehicle on the field. The Orks just haven't been able to execute this last third of the game here, and it's suddenly turning around against their favor. I mean, both of the Ork heroes upgraded with anti-vehicle. There's still tank buses on the field. There's knobs. There's Ludas with the beamy def gun. It's surprising that the Blues have managed to keep these walkers up so well despite all of this opposition. Neurological Terror now sitting with a pretty full army and then just tons of requisition on top of that. So unfortunately for the Reds, not being able to kind of close the game out when they had the opportunity allowed Neurological Terror to kind of get in there and get this tech in position. Oftentimes people kind of feel flustered and frustrated at this kind of situation when they feel like they've been dominating so well and someone gets into tier 2. But really what they needed to do was kind of close this game out while Neurological Terror was running such a minor army right there. But in these last few minutes, 93 to 86, a 2-0 cap against the Red. Looks like MasterLeeZhao going to move in on the natural VP of the Blues once again, recognizing that everyone's kind of lobbed up in the center here. There is a Predator out here now as well, though, and I just don't know how the Orks are going to approach this. Looted tank coming out as well. I think really there's going to be one last attempt at a push here, and the looted tank, I think maybe they just need to move in on this side, maybe try to take out that Predator first and foremost. And but man, there's just so much bulk out here. This many walkers is hard to approach. There's just no getting around it, especially with the Tech Marine able to drop Blessing of the Omnissiah in the middle of the fight and start healing up all of these guys on the field. It's this beautiful heavy play to really pay off. Here comes a big engagement, possibly the last one for the Orks unless they manage to take a victory point here. This looted tank didn't stand a chance. Predator and that Melta, along with the rockets of those tactical marines, take it out in the blink of an eye. Emperor's Fist goes down, stunning the entirety of that mech marine. Or sorry, man, I said it again, mech marine. That mech boy army right there. This Dreadnought finally looks like it might be under a bit of duress here, as those knobs should be able to rip it apart. Let's see if they manage to at least get a single walker kill here in these last moments of the game. A nice special attack going off there, and Tech Marine healing in the thick of the fight. Even while taking that Luda damage and the knobs, it tanked on through with that Dark Age of Technology upgraded with 1700 HP. That Dreadnought almost now at level 4. 28 victory points remaining for the red team, and I just don't think they've got anything that they can do about it. MasterLeeZh's been fully routed. It looks like Anlaiddre is going to be as well, and with these last few victory points ticking away, I think that's going to be just about it for the game. It was looking so good for the Orks in the mid and early game, and then suddenly at the end there, the Blues really brought it together. Got the big avatar onto the field, got the retreat beacon at mid, and the Orks just weren't able to break the line going forward from there. But man, I love Walker play, and that was some pretty sweet stuff. There was good vehicle counters on the field too. The Orks just, I'm not sure what they should have gone for other than just, I think there wasn't anything wrong with their composition. It was just their execution in the later stage of the game. They were really swamping the Eldar and Space Marines early on, but once there was enough bulk that they weren't easily swayed by the advancing green tide, there just wasn't a lot they could do to put a lot of pressure on the Blues. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the game. That was a pretty fun 2-on-2. We've done a 3s, a 1s, and a 2s since we've been back now, so we'll just repeat the cycle and keep the games coming. Feel free to stop by, comment, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Find me on the social media. Send me your replays. I need those replays. This is Red-Rupee. I'll catch you guys